the burial date was fixed. So I'm not the burial time sermonizer. And if there's anything like that, that would have been the minister, but we don't even have anything like that. So the last time that I had a sermon, because we just buried on a Saturday, I was a bit forced to start thinking of how to bring in certain things about the burial on the Sunday being the sermon. That same temptation came this time, and I said, no, we have done all. This is the time to move on. So the topic or the sermon today has nothing to do with burial, has nothing to do with death, has nothing to do with any of that. So we'll go straight into this. As a bit of a preamble, there are some animals called very common in East Africa, called the wildebeest. Wildebeest is spelled Wildebeest. You know, it actually belongs to the zebra family, but when you see it, it looks more like a cow. They have a very interesting behavior. They do what they call seasonal migration. At a particular time of the year, around August, September, and all of that, somewhere in Tanzania and Kenya, these animals will move from whatever the location they were in droves. You can see about 1.5 million of them moving in circular motion at the same time. That was usually quite a spectacle. You know, this is just in search of fresh grazing and water. They do that every year. I think I remember being in Kenya, and I was saying if I could stay up to that time that I would go and work, and they witnessed it. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The interesting thing about this migration is, I don't know what is in these animals that once it's that time of the year, without ringing a bell or anything, all of them will start moving. You know, I don't know what is in them that will tell them move wherever they are. In this their migration, they will have to go through crocodile-infested waters. Of course, if 1.5 million of them will embark of this journey, not all of them will come back. You know, so irrespective of what is happening wherever they are going, they will still go. You know, if a war has broken out in that destination, they will still go. If Boko Haram is not interested in animals, let's assume they are. If they say, Boko Haram is there, they will still go. Something must push them, and they have no reason but to what? To move. They have zero control over this particular kind of push or urge. There are also that kind of stories for birds, but I think when you see land animals moving, it's a bit of more of a spectacle than when you see birds flying in droves. The question now is, will human beings do the same thing when you can even intentionally walk towards your death just because of some natural proclivities, some urges, some inclinations, some bad habits? Irrespective of what is happening, you still walk towards your death. Unfortunately, the answer is still yes. We'll come to that. There's an African proverb, an Igbo proverb actually, that says that it is only a tree that will hear of its impending death and still remains in the same location. As a matter of fact, you want to do construction and you mark buildings and trees for demolition, that tree will be there until you come and cut it down. A similar proverb even says that even a cripple will survive a war that has a date. You know, I don't know if it's a good translation. It simply means if a cripple knows that there will be a war in 3 weeks' time around this place, that cripple will move today. Because they know they don't have legs, they won't run when others are running. What will they do? They will move ahead of time to prevent that war. So any war that is known will not take the head of a cripple. The second question then is, what happens when human beings hear of their impending deaths and still remain at the same place? Is it that there's something wrong with these human beings, or they don't know that they can move? Is it that they think maybe there are trees that cannot move and wait for that same death to come and take them? The topic for today's sermon is, you are not a tree. I know that would have been obvious, but let's just look at it again in case we are not aware. The topic is, you are not a tree. Our text will be taken from the book of Ezra 10:4, but we're not going to read now. This will be read much later. We are not trees. We are definitely not the wild beasts, which I gave an example of, that they will move at a particular time of the season, irrespective of what is waiting for them up there. God created us in His own image and gave us the mind, the power to think, to reason, to rationalize and make good decisions. Somebody once said that what makes a man is his mind. Every thing he can find in a human body, he can equally find in a pig. So when men don't use their mind, then what is different between them and animals? The sermon of today is therefore a reminder that we are not completely helpless. We are not at the mercy of our habits, our urges, our temperaments, and other natural inclinations that will prevent us from living a more fulfilling and worthy lives. It's also a reminder that as human beings, and most especially as Christians, we have the power to wage war against these things that will kill us. Things that will stop us from growing, things that will derail us from our heavenly race, we have the power to do something about it. We can see many examples from the scriptures of people who have fought so hard to overcome the obstacles, the odds that are stacked against them. If you read the book of Hebrews 11, it's a very popular passage called talk about the men and women of faith who did impossible things just to move ahead. So our lives can be turned around, irrespective of direction, how long we've gone in the wrong direction. Our life can be turned around. We can change our names. We can change the names we've been called by. If somebody is called a drunk, that name can be changed. If somebody is known as a bad-tempered man, that name can be changed. We see an example in the Bible of a man called Jacques, who was born under some messed up conditions. The name literally means the sorrowful one. He said, no, I can't bear this kind of name. He did something about it. He prayed to God and he had to change his name. We can write our stories from bad to good. We see an example of a man called Zacchaeus, the greedy tax collector. He one day said, no, I don't want to be this kind of horrible human being anymore. And he did something about it. Who can even challenge death. We see an example of a man called Hezekiah, who said no. He said, it's time to die. He said, no, God, you can't do that to me. He gave examples of all the things, all the wonderful things he has done for God. I said, God, he cannot. This man negotiated his debt. This man got 15 more years. You know what that means, right? For somebody to say, today is the day you die. He said, no. And he negotiated, not with men, he negotiated with God. And at the end of the day, he came away with 15 additional years. So our lives can be turned around because we are human beings created in the image of God. We are not trees. And we are not helpless. We are not completely helpless. The first question I have for you is, are your bad habits going to kill you? What habits are the biggest threats to your physical health? When we talk of death, it can be in different dimensions, spiritually, physically even, right? There are things we know will shorten our lifespan, but we already hooked to those things. We're already addicted to those things. You hear something like something must kill a man, right? We continue with those things, and even know when we know that it's going to kill us, we appear to be completely at the mercy of it. It could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be many things. Then spiritually also, the Bible talks about the walking dead. Those who are here, but they don't know God, the Bible refers to them as what? Walking dead. So these people are alive, but they are dead spiritually. So what are those things that are going to kill you spiritually? Ignorance. Many people are wallowing in ignorance, and that is going to make them miss heaven. Unlike the old cliche, ignorance is not bliss. There's a cost to it. Indifference, irresponsibility. What are the things that are likely to kill your family life, kill your marriage health, and all of that? What are you doing about them? In this congregation, I usually tired of me saying that the first steps towards solving any problem is identified. We are taught that in engineering those days. Do you know those habits? Do you know those things that will kill you? Can you go to battle with them? Can you ask for help? If you are not going to do it on your own. Romans 8:13 says, for if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. So this is a matter of life and death. You are not a tree. Are you going to remain there for these habits to kill you? The second question I have for you is, will your temperament limit you? Maybe that's a big word, but let's pause. Let's stay back a bit. What really determines how a natural man will act or behave? Why do we behave the way we behave? People are different. I think we know that already. People are wired to behave differently, whether they are Christians or not. Even if you take the life of the apostles, you will know that they were different people. You know, there's the one we normally use, the misunderstanding or the quarrel that happened between Paul and Barnabas. I don't like calling it quarrel, you know. But they quarreled. The Bible calls it a sharp disagreement. They went on a mission and they had a young man called John Mark who happened not to be very serious. The young man abandoned them in the process. A time came, he said, okay, why don't we go back and visit all the people we preached to before? And that's what the evangelism committee normally announced this morning, talking of volunteers that will go back, follow up. Why don't we go and follow up with the people we preached to before? Paul and Barnabas disagreed because John, the Mark, was going to go with them, and Paul said, no, this man is not a serious person, you know. And Barnabas said, let's give him another chance. Paul was more focused on the task at hand. Paul was more focused on what to be achieved. But Barnabas was still concerned, a bit of empathy, on how a young man will feel just not to be given a second chance just because he made a mistake. Two of them could not agree. Paul went on his own, and Barnabas went with this man called Mark. That tells you that these were different personalities. They were not the same kind of person. They were wired a bit differently. We know the story of Peter. You know, it was the man that during Transfiguration, he was telling Christ, "Oh, this is Moses, and you are here. This is what. Why don't you build 3 tabernacles?" I will be wondering, is he saying that those people were not supposed to go back? He was volunteering already. Since they're here, let's build 3 tabernacles. One for you, Jesus Christ. One for Moses, and the other one for Elijah. It was the one that would say, "No, I will go with you wherever you want to go." And very quickly to follow, very quickly to also say don't deny him. It is easy to picture what kind of personality he was. But reality is that we are wired to behave differently. And the question is why? Maybe the environment, maybe the cultures, maybe the traditions. People will tell you that the Chinese are hard workers because of their population. You know? So too many people, too many opportunities. So you want to survive, you want to be among the fittest. So many men, few women to marry, so you want to eligible bachelor, you have to be better than the other person. So those things, cultures and all that will affect people. But the question is, what about kids? You have 2 kids at the age of 1 or 2, they're already different. So what culture, what influence? They were barely just coming to the world, right? When my twins were like 2, and they were to go to school for the first time, you take them to the school, one of them will cry and cry and cry. They want to go back with the mother. The other one will majestically walk into the class as a very serious scholar. The one that was crying, later on he managed to calm the person down. I don't want to, I want to save their dignity, so I don't want to know who and who, right? So when they settle down for the class, that one that walked into the class majestically and serious person will start sleeping. The one that protested will now start listening very attentively. You know. Now, when they were learning how to write, one of them, of course, you need to hold their hands. If the mother will hold one of them to tell him or her how to write, they will be protesting like, "Leave me, I want to do it on my own." The other one will be saying, "Mommy, just take my hand, you know. Let's write this thing and let people just do other things." So at the age of 2, somebody was already on serious, right? So people are different, and I'm talking of my twins are male and female. I have my younger sister had boys. They are identical twins. They will be 15 now. I still cannot tell them apart. You know, I have stopped trying. You know, so I said, okay, if their mother can differentiate them, then no problem. When they come to my house, they live in Benin. When they come to my house, somebody will do something. I will say, "Daniel, stop that," because I know that it's only Daniel that will make that kind of trouble. That's the only way I can tear them apart. So even identical twins, born in the same place, raised in the same place, behave differently. So what is that factor? That's what people have called our temperament. That will determine a bit of our personalities. So whether we like it or not, Christians or pagans, Jews or Gentiles, people we are wired to behave in a kind of way. So temperament is definitely a factor which uniquely defines people. In study of all these, I think there are a lot of categories, but the commonest one, they will tell you people are in broad 4 categories. You have people who are sanguine, they are extrovert, they are friendly, they are impulsive. That sounds more like a Peter, you know? They are very impulsive. I have a brother, before you see him, you heard his voice. So he enters the room with his mouth first, you know? And when he comes, he has not met you before, he's talking with I'm like, what is wrong with you? He can't do anything about it. That is how he is. Those are sanguines. You have choleric who are extroverts, very decisive, very goal-oriented. I'm not done a research on this, but that sounds more like Paul. But there's a weakness with that. Sometimes you won't even be empathic enough to feel the pulse of people because you want to get things done. You have the melancholic that are introverts, that are very detailed, that are skeptical. In fact, if I ask, trying to find out what is wrong with something, they will find 10 reasons why something will not work. That's how they are wired. And you have the phlegmatic, who are very peaceful and casual people. I have one of my kids like that. You don't see any reason why people should stress in this life. You know, life should be easy and all of that. I'm one of those people that will tell you that it can't actually put people in buckets. But reality is that we are different. The question now is, what will be the temperament of a Christian? None. Any of those. Right? Because each one comes with strengths, each one comes with what? Weaknesses. So what the Bible will tell you, Bible will start telling you about the fruits of the Holy Spirit, for example. Bible will not be telling you need to be this person. What it means is that if your temperament, if the things you need in the manual of a Christian is 20, and your temperament is giving you 10, it means you are going to look for what? The other what? 10. Because you want to be a well-rounded Christian. And I'm saying that people can do everything to change how they are. Different temperaments are more subject to anger. People can do things to limit how angry and how easily they get angry. So temperaments can never be a reason why you are going to walk into your death. Are you defined? That's the third question. Are you defined by your stereotypes? We hear this every day. Every now and then, we hear that people are supposed to behave in a particular way because of their gender, because they come from a particular place, because they grew up in a particular place, and they have to behave that way. You hear things like, generalization like, oh, all men are polygamous by nature. That's a man. There's nothing you can do about it. Oh, women, it doesn't matter. They are only attracted by money. We are Nigerians are all corrupt. We hear things like that. These are even the nice one. I hear that Igbo people can do anything to make money. And when I deal with people, I don't realize that they love money more than I do. I say, okay, maybe I'm fake. Right? But these are the nice ones. There are people that they say that if they don't have flight tickets, they can have other ways they can fly and just get to their destinations. Some of them are my friends, yeah? So let me not say them. So we have different things that are stereotypes. But the question is, are these statements really true? Are you going to be having a kind of way because, oh, but you know, I'm a man, I'm polygamous, I'm this, I'm that. Is that really true? And if this is true, what category of people can be described with these generic statements? Christians also, sometime last year, was it last year or last 2 years, when we were trying to organize our sports event, we say that let us go to a public place and play football, men, women, and all of that. So we were like, oh, but are you saying the sisters will now wear trousers? Are they not going to tempt the brothers? I was on your screen. So what you're saying is that you go to a public place, Then you see a sister wearing a trouser, you start running after her because you're a man. I think we men should protest some of these statements. We should carry placards and say, no, men are not dogs, men are humans. We have brain. If anybody feels that way, it is not because the person is a man, it's because the person has a problem. So you just know there's a problem. How do I solve this problem? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, is a new creation, all things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. Stereotypes will not really matter. I have the fourth question. I don't know if it's 4 or 5. Fourth question, I think. It says, do you have a growth mindset? Do you believe that if you are in a particular way, that's how you will remain for the rest of your life? There are people I call the Just As I Am crew. That our song that will say, Just as I am without one plea. Some people actually misinterpret it, right? They miss all the spiritual connotations. Then they will say, just as I am, that's how I am, that's how I want to be, that's how I remain. But you know me, you know that I'm very hot-tempered. Who gave you the right? So because you're in a particular way, every year, every day, day in, day out, you are that way. We still know you without your horrible temper. 15 years later, you are still that same person. So where is the place for growth? Where is the place for maturity? Everything about the Bible will tell us how we are babes, we'll be drinking milk, and after a while, we should be mature to show bones. Because even God expects us to grow at some point. We have Bible passages talking about that. And in our Christian faith, we're expected to mature, grow from strength to strength. No wonder the book of 2 Peter 1:5-8 will tell you about adding virtue to your faith, adding knowledge to your virtue, adding temperament to your knowledge, adding patience to your temperaments, and all of that. Because people are expected to what? To grow. Someone once said that a particular lesson will keep coming to you until you learn it. If you are somebody that wants to hear anything, you are already shouting. You will keep shouting until you learn how to be calm, irrespective of what people are saying about you. And until you learn that, you will remain in that particular class. If it's class 5, you'll be in class 5 when everybody is going to what? Class 6. Are you open to feedback? Are you able to even take criticism? Are you able to manage it when people don't share your point of view? When people think a bit different from you? Are you able to cope with that? That is the beginning of maturity, when people can actually see things wrong in what you've done and you're ready to accept it and try to see if there's any other way you can make amendments. In my consulting career, there was something that kind of flipped it, something that changed it categorically. I was a young consultant and I had this senior manager I was working with. One day he invited me to Ikoyi Club. I was so sure that he wanted to go and thank me for all the hard work I've been doing. I went to meet him there. The first time I ever stepped my foot into there. I was excited. 30 minutes later, this man has completely finished me. Gave me a lot of very horrible feedback, things I wasn't doing well. As a matter of fact, he got personal on my personal grooming. There was a particular jacket he said, from today, don't ever wear it within 1 kilometer of that office. I don't want to see it again. As a matter of fact, when I got home that day, I couldn't sleep. I brought that jacket, I was talking to it like a human being. Usually I will give out my clothes mostly, but I was talking to them, I said, for this embarrassment, not only am I not going to wear you again, nobody will ever wear this particular jacket. But that's not the point. I can tell you, a month or two later, in consulting, you get a yearly evaluation. I got my evaluation, and this man was saying all the wonderful things and recommending me to become a manager. I went back to him and said, you are confusing me now. We were in a Ikoyi Club the other day. This doesn't not. He said, no, you got it wrong. What I had in your evaluation is how you are fared compared to your peers. And as a matter of fact, you are performing ahead of your peers. What I told you in Ikoyi Club is where I expect you to be, knowing what you have in you. I was like, okay, you would have explained better now, right? So, me, I was seeing almost an enemy, but this was someone who wanted me to what? To grow. So when we are not able to get feedback and work with feedback, we'll be limited. And I think your feedback criticism should actually come from friends, not enemies. The Bible says, even the Lord chastises those words he loves. The people you may call my friend in this Ikeja church are people that get a bite side of me most times. The day someone like this of Falabian says they will not be worshiping with another congregation that is not coming to Ikeja again, you can blame me. It must have been me, right? Because I create a lot of problems for him. 1 month ago or thereabout, I was having a conversation with Sinanuge, who most of you will consider my friend, and we disagreed on something. It was something that had to do with the youth. I said, no, it's not right. It should be done this way. He said, no, but what of this? I said, no, it should be done. After all the agreements, I don't even know how we ended it. A day later, he sent me a screenshot showing that he had gone ahead to address some of those things I complained about. I then sent me a message. I said, thanks for addressing this. And sorry if you think I was being very hard on this. He read it and he ignored me. Simply means, go with your trouble, right? And these are people that you will normally say, oh, these are my friends. If friends cannot give you feedback, if brothers cannot give you feedback, if your brethren cannot tell you, oh, you should do this way, then who is going to tell you? Proverbs 27:6 says, the kisses of an enemy may be profuse, but faithful are the wounds of a friend. So a friend can actually be an inconvenience sometimes. Pointing out to you the things that you need to do differently. Okay. I normally say that I must finish my sermon within the allotted time. So sorry if I seem to be hurrying. The last question I have is, are you around you? The notable thing that stands out for me in Acts chapter 2 on the day of Pentecost, when Peter and the apostles were called preaching to people, there was something they kept saying in Acts chapter 2 verse 40. It said, save yourself from this untoward what? Generation. Untoward means corrupt, perfect, and all of that. If Peter should just look at what the generation we have now, he will look for another bigger English, right? That is what we are dealing with right now. It's a completely crazy world. We are going to call for baptism, but I also want to say, if you are here and you are still confused and struggling with what to do, whether you will deal with the world or you will out there and go crazy, that is the world you are dealing with. Can Christians still then be affected by this? 1 John 2:15-16 says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but of the world, invariably of the devil. We will conclude. We can do a whole lot of things to change the direction of our life. We can do so much to hold ourselves to higher standards and achieve superior versions of ourselves. Let us therefore avoid our urges, our desires, our temperaments, or whatever we call it, to be what will derail us from our purpose on earth. And what are you willing to do? What are the things you willing to go back to and say, no, this is not me. Henceforth, I'm not this person anymore. What are those things? We'll now go back to our very text. So it's the text, but we are reading the last. At the surface, it may not make a lot of sense to you. It says, rise up. This matter is in your hands. We will support you. So take courage and do it. Ezra 10:4. What was happening there, if you go and read the background, is actually Ezra was just both a spirit and a scribe. They were dealing with something. The dangers or the troubles they've had by marrying a lot of strange women, the troubles they put themselves into. Even though that seemed drastic, but they were praying, and after praying, they were telling themselves that we will do something about this. We are going to make a new covenant before God. All these women, we are going to send them away because we want to what? Right all the wrongs that had been done. If you read the passage again, it is saying this matter is in your hands. The bad habits, the stereotypes, the immaturity, the temperaments, all these things are in your hands. Take courage and do something about them so they don't cost your death. He said, we will support you, get help if you need. God says, if any man lacks wisdom, then pray to God. God is the one that gives wisdom. If there's anything you need to overcome that, pray to God. If it's something that the church will help you with, come to the church. If it's something that you need to meet professionals for, meet. Even the world out there are people who will join what they call Alcoholic Anonymous. They are trying to meet together to see how they will stop what? Drinking. Let alone the children of God. You are not a tree. You are not a wild beast. You can avoid